This story is about the day that I knew heaven was for real and that I could see animated souls actually speak in front of my third eye. Literally walk in and start talking. I don't think there would be any other person in my life that I ever would trust other than my dad. And I have to tell you that my dad wasn't 100% on board with my psychic abilities, but he did admit that there had been occasions where he had experiences where he couldn't exactly explain how he knew about someone who'd passed away. And he had been sick. He was 83 years old, and he had had a stroke while we were doing a procedure for him to have water off of his brain because he was starting to exhibit, dementia and those types of things. I always wonder why people don't go get the stent to be able to be spun down to assist with the water on the brain. I always wonder why that isn't offered, to everyone. It's curious. But anyway, unfortunately, no, he did have a stroke and he had to learn how to walk and talk again. And while I had been visiting him, I said, well, Dad, we have to have a sign when you pass on, when you pass on, assuming that he was going to pass before me. Poor guy. I was always telling him silly things. Not when he was going to die, but just, I'm sure he had to deal with a lot with me. So he told me, and he's always silly. And I said, well, Dad, what's our sign going to be? And he says, well, I think it should be an empty wallet because I won't have any money anymore. This is from a man who was a great money manager and had a lot of success in the insurance industry and money managing industry. So that was always funny that he said that to me. Well, fast forward almost a year later, he had been walking up the steps, unfortunately fell and hit his head right on the corner of the windows of the door sill. Our dog had come over and sat with him until my mom came, and he was still alive, but they took him to the hospital. And as they were stitching up his head, it was almost like his memory or his ability to communicate was becoming like a dim light that was almost going out. And prior to him passing, I remember the last thing he said was for me to leave because I had a scheduled appointment to get my gallbladder taken out. And I did go get my gallbladder taken out, but I was taking my time, and I was talking to the hospital. Somehow he's over on his bed, and he barely can talk, and he says, go, like you need to go to the hospital and get your surgery. So I'm like, okay. And, knowing that this actually was going to be the last time I ever got to see my dad talk or anything. But of course he was yelling at me, which makes me laugh. One day goes by and Dad is diminishing, and we all kind of are suspecting that there'll be a call that he's passed away. Well, we did get that phone call, and I drove as fast as I could to the hospital, and my other 3 sisters and brother were also alerted, so we all were coming. Some of us saw a rainbow, an otherwise beautiful temperature day that there was be no reason and no rain to have a rainbow, but they felt that was Dad. My mother also, they shared fishing with each other and being out on the river on my dad's favorite wooden boat that he had made in Canada. There is a picture that looked just like that. My mom, who's not very whimsical, did admit that when she looked at that picture, she said it's almost like it glowed, like it took a life of its own and was emanating even off the walls, she said. Now, this was odd for her to say, but I listened, knowing all of that was Dad. Well, I wasn't thinking much, but I was on our way to gather at my sister's house. And while my ex-husband was driving me along in the car, I was looking outside, staring out at the fields, not really thinking anything but sad, processing that my dad had gone, my favorite guy. And wouldn't you know, out of the corner of my eye, something was thrown at me. I had pulled my head back and then thought quietly to myself, like, what was that? And then in my third eye, as I viewed, I saw that it was an empty wallet. And right when I saw the empty wallet, you wouldn't believe, my father jumped right in front of me, literally, as if he were there in this world. But he wasn't. He was in another place. And I had never seen anything specifically like this before, or a message directly given to me. And he jumped in front of me, and my dad was short and stocky and had a belly and a big barrel chest and a jolly fellow. And he jumped in front of me and waved his hands, and he said, "I'm here." And then he was flipping the ear of this dog that he and my mom had, and his name was his name? Well, I can't believe this. I'm forgetting his name.